The real ornament are knowledge, modesty, and sense of duty. Harmonizing with these words, the college wishes to be seen as a destination where students embrace their future with hope and confidence. The college aims at maintaining an inclusive teaching learning environment, inculcating human values, and enabling students to be responsible citizens, encouraging all round development of students, providing information and skill based knowledge, and promoting social awareness, sensitivity, and responsiveness. We also encourage students to participate in various activities for their overall growth. We have gathered here for the international webinar on Bollywood business, the commerce of box office collection. It is organized by Department of Journalism in collaboration with Department of Commerce, Kalindi College, University of Delhi. We have with us our eminent speakers, Dr. Vikrant Kishore. He is a course director, film, television and animation, a senior lecturer in screen and design from School of Communication and Creative Arts, Faculty of Arts and Education, Deccan University, Australia. We also have with us Dr. Abhishek Singh, Associate Professor and Chief Coordinator, Media and Research, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad. It's an honor to have both of you with us, and we are very thankful to you for sparing your valuable time. Over to you, Pathvi. Pathvi.
Yes, Pathvi.
Thank you for your warm words, ma'am. Now I would like to request Dr. Manisha, Department of Journalism, to introduce our speaker, Dr. Vikrant Kishore.
Yes, thank you, Pathvi. Good morning, everyone. Though it's very hard to sum up the 25 years long and successful journey of Dr. Vikrant Kishore in few minutes introduction, yet I'll try to highlight a few major achievements of Dr. Kishore. Dr. Kishore is a well-established personality in the field of mass communication, filmmaking, photography, and media research from past 25 years. Currently, he is serving in Deakin University, Australia, as course director of film, television, and animation department. He is author of several publications based on film and journalism with renowned international publications. Dr. Kishore is an active member of International Dance Council, that is CID, UNESCO, and Association Nationale Cultures and Tradition, France. He has been a jury member in various film festivals such as Atom Awards, Australia, Real Films Film Festival Newcastle, and Doordarshan National, India. Dr. Kishore was associated with a number of eminent film festivals as a jury member and distinguished guest. He is the recipient of prestigious international fellowship and scholarship. Sir, we are fortunate enough to have you with us today and for this webinar, and looking forward for your lecture only. So thank you so much for joining us today, sir. You're welcome. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Manisha, and thank you all the faculty members, and most importantly, thanks to all the students for joining us. It is always a pleasure to speak to students from India, especially Delhi University, because I'm also a product of Delhi University, St. Stephen's College. And then I also taught in Delhi University for some time as well at IP College with the Mass Communication Department. So lots of old association and ties are there with Delhi University. So yeah, so it's always a kind of a great feeling addressing and being back among the students of Delhi University and Delhi as such. So I'll be talking about box office and Bollywood, but what I'll be doing is to give you a kind of a bird's eye overview of few of the things, and maybe which you might be interested in knowing. And I understand that this cohort today who has gathered, it's a mixed cohort of journalism students as well as commerce students. So what I've done is that I've made my presentation a bit more statistical, which can appeal to students from that commerce background. Though I'm not at all a commerce person, and anything, even for additions, I'd rather use my calculator than my brain. So I'm that bad when it comes to doing 2 plus 2 or 1 plus 1 kind of a thing. But anyway, my expertise in Indian cinema is there mostly about, as a kind of a critique and as a kind of a researcher on Indian cinema. I do lots of, my analysis is on Indian films, especially on Indian song and dance and representation of Indian choreography. So those are the things that interests me. What I'm going to do is probably start with some slideshows and talk you through that initially, and then come back onto my own discussion. So just 1 second, let me just share this presentation. Okay, so talking about box office and Bollywood with you today. And yeah, so the presentation is happening now. So let me first talk to you about Indian film industry. Indian film industry is a very strong film industry. In fact, the second largest. It keeps on changing these days. Even Chinese film industry is becoming quite strong. So the value of the film industry at the moment currently is around 183 billion Indian rupees. The highest internationally grossing Indian film was Dangal, of course, because it made a huge amount of money in China. China has become one of the biggest kind of destination for cinema. And in fact, you will see Hollywood vies for that Chinese market, which Indians have been a bit slow in doing so, but Amir Khan somehow understood the Chinese market and its importance. And it in a way, it reflected in the kind of money that Amir Khan's productions make. So he always has a kind of strategy in place to release his films in these kind of places where films can make money. And China is certainly a place where we should look towards. In terms of biggest Bollywood production of all time, it's Robot 2.0. So that made quite a lot of money. So let me start with the basics. Okay, so we all talk about box office. What is box office? What does box office do? So I'm just using a very basic definition here from dictionary.com. So, there are things like the office of a theater, stadium, or the like at which tickets are sold, or receipts from a play or entertainment popular enough to attract paying audiences and making a profit. Or for us, it is more important, relating to the box office or to the business and commercial aspect of theater. So we are looking at what is the return of films, how much they can make. So box office is all about the profitability or how much a movie makes or what they lose or things like that. So in terms of are they able to get something out of it or not. But again, before going into the box office and things like that, firstly, let's talk about Bollywood, okay? There is a certain pride, at least when I say Bollywood, I always say it with a certain pride, okay? It's a brand name now for Indian films, okay? It started with a tongue-in-cheek kind of a humor or a kind of a very derogatory look towards Indian cinema, predominantly Hindi cinema, for being it very escapist, okay? Because people, especially in India, the journalists, especially the elitist English-speaking journalists at one point of time, 80s and 90s, they would always compare Indian cinema with Hollywood or European cinema. And they would never understand the difference of the kind of audience that Europe or America has and the audience that India had, and the kind of films the Indians like. So that in that comparison, they always found the Indian cinema to be of a very poor quality, to be of very poor plot line, to be of very poor in every sense. So in a derogatory manner, Bollywood was coined. But somehow, within those derogatory meanings and, kind of tongue-in-cheek laughter or those kind of approach, over the years, especially post 1990s, Bollywood has become a particular term which really signifies of, at least in the countries outside India, Bollywood is big. Bollywood signifies Indian cinema. Bollywood is something which people look up to and they really enjoy watching. Okay, so earlier it was connected with mainly Hindi cinema, but now I always see that people, because they are not able to understand the language difference between a Hindi cinema or a Tamil cinema as such. It needs an explanation to most of the Westerners or most of the foreign people. So for them, Bollywood is anything with song and dance and with that kind of Indian feel to it. So ultimately it's the Indian. So I generally like to use Bollywood/Indian cinema always as a terminology. Though again, as I said, I take pride in brand Bollywood, but I also like to use the term Indian cinema. And when I have to be specific about Bombay cinema or Hindi cinema, then I definitely use the term Hindi cinema so that I'm also respecting the regional cinemas, okay? Or even when I say regional cinemas, even the regional cinemas like Tamil or Telugu or Malayalam, they have also become transnational cinema. They have also become global cinema. So there is no kind of a difference in terms of that if Hindi is the best or Tamil is the best or that. They all are equal. They represent our country and they are out there making us all proud and of course keeping us entertained. That's what films are there for. So recently, of course, there has been much consternation about the term Bollywood, and I've been seeing people wanting to boycott Bollywood and beat up, the Bollywood people and all those things. But those are very, very kind of a media-created frenzy, which I do not ascribe to. You may feel, this is my opinion, you might totally disagree with me, and I will respect that. But I feel that the heat that Bollywood has got over the last few months, I think it has been the most unfortunate which has happened in India. Anyway, we will keep on admiring and we'll keep on watching Bollywood, be it good, bad, or ugly. It is, so what I say, like it or hate it, it is here to stay. And Bollywood, when I use the term Bollywood, again, another thing to remember here is that we are specifically talking about the mainstream commercial cinema. Okay, so that's one of the kind of differences there. Moving on to kind of giving you a kind of a worldwide film market from 2007 to 2018 in terms of number of films produced, you will see India has been always in top in terms of the numbers of film that is being produced. And here, mind it, this is the combined films produced in India. So do not think that Hindi cinema, okay? Do not think Tamil cinema. It is a combination of Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati, Punjabi, Bhojpuri, all kind of cinema together. And that's what makes Indian cinema, or in terms of brand probably, I like to call it Bollywood. And not, very close to India is China. And China used to produce very few films earlier. It wasn't as big as India. But in last 20, 30 years, things have really changed in China. And it is for good that we see so many great films also coming from China. I like so many, even I would say Far East. My favorite films are Korean films. I really love watching Korean films, especially the Korean horror and Korean gangster films. Those are amazing films. Or Japanese films, of course, in terms of classical films, if you talk about Akira Kurosawa or Sensei Suzuki or so many of the Japanese filmmakers, they are amazing, outstanding. And Hollywood is another kind of a big giant, the top film. Can I ask the person who has his mic on, kindly turn it off so that we don't have any interference in between? If you're cooking something or eating something, do it with your mic turned on. All right. So, yeah, so it is a kind of a very interesting thing. If you look at the worldwide film market, India, China, Japan, United States, South Korea, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, United Kingdom, films are being made. It is there. And it is interesting to see, the amount of films, India and China are, 1,500 plus. And then the third one, Japan, is at around 600. So the majority of the films across the world, it's coming from India and China, in fact. So leading film market worldwide in 2019 by number of tickets sold. One thing which was happening till last year was that India used to have the highest number of tickets sold. But this year, the number game has changed. Now China has become the number one in terms of the number of tickets where the market is being, the market where the number of tickets are being sold. And no wonder so many, people from all across the world are wanting to, get into China for its kind of huge market, the kind of box office returns they get. If the film is good, definitely they make a huge amount in China. And in India also. India is becoming a kind of a hot space for a whole lot of Hollywood films. Hollywood has become the number two grossers in India because of the Marvel films and all these superhero films and all. So I'll just read for you data on leading, and this is from Statista, which has lots of statistics on Indian films and international films. So I've relied on their particular statistics here. So China has regained its position in first place, given that the coronavirus affected all countries in the ranking and will have an overall detrimental effect on box office revenues, ticket sales, and film industry in general. So, of course, 2020, we cannot escape without talking about coronavirus and how it has impacted the whole entertainment industry, hospitality, and you name it, and everyone has been impacted, education including that. So, if you look at revenue, this is where, India is quite low, the kind of revenue. Why? Because our ticket prices are very cheap, okay? I'm talking about the single screen tickets, okay? The multiplex tickets are as expensive as what I buy in Australia probably, okay? In Australia probably on an average, generally the tickets prices are around $12 to $20, and if you go on to all those really high-end theaters, then probably you might end up paying $25 or $30. But on an average, it's between $12 to $20, which is good enough. And in India, I'll see now, they are charging 500 to 1,000 rupees depending on the films or the kind of release that is happening. So definitely, if you look at that, so USA at 11.4 billion US dollars, that's maximum revenue. China number 2. Japan number 3, United Kingdom number 4, and of course India is at number 7 there. Okay, so behind South Korea, France. Okay, so the films, and this is again not about the power of money, but it is all about the ticket price. So the revenue income is not, it's mainly because of ticket price. But also another factor you should keep in mind, that USA, China, Japan, UK, South Korea, and France, all the 6 which are above India, they have been able to capture the international market. They have got a huge, huge audience in the international market. So I see a whole lot of films, wherever I go, I can watch it in Europe. If I want to watch a Chinese film or a Japanese film, they are being regularly released in Europe or in America or in the Asian countries. But Indian cinema is still limited to very, specific pockets. So specific pockets are the Gulf countries, which are our biggest takers. Australia and New Zealand are growing market, but it's a very minuscule market because the population is only 2.5 crores here in Australia, and New Zealand is very, very small. UK is a big market, and USA, of course, has been the biggest market. So UK, US, Canada, the Europe and North American side. And then in the other side, we have Gulf, Australia, New Zealand, and of course, many African countries. And there are also many of these East European countries which are big takers of Indian cinema. And that's what makes Indian cinema global. And people earlier never talked about the popularity of Indian cinema in the Eastern European countries, especially Russia or Poland or Romania, Estonia, and all these places where Indian cinema was very popular. And also a result of the Cold War, where they did not want Hollywood to come in, so they gave access to Indian films. And USSR had its first international star in Raj Kapoor, or later on Mithun Chakravarti became the biggest star for Eastern Europe. So those are the kind of things where people in India never talked about, the kind of stardom, international stardom that Indians or Indian filmmakers or Indian film stars got. So distribution of Indian box office in terms of on the basis of language. So Hindi films made up the highest share in Indian box office in 2019 at 44%. Hollywood followed that here. Okay, so second highest grosser in terms of total revenue was Hollywood. Okay, and then Tamil cinema ranking third. And Hollywood is making lots of money because all these superhero franchises, they are working wonderfully, not just in India, world over. Of course, they're taking their is in billions. So those are the kind of things what is happening. I'm going to turn off the sharing and I'll just have a chat more directly, hopefully. So one of the things that when we talk about box office and creative industries is also about the employment we generate. Okay, so employment in the film industry, which was indirect, was approximately 448,000 in India in financial year of 2017. On the other hand, direct employment was around 247,000 across the country. Okay, so and then this is something which has always been underplayed. The way films provide employment. It isn't, films are not just about making money. People always think, and this is the kind of argument which I really, really don't like when people say, oh, we are going to boycott Bollywood and because they make money out of it. No, Bollywood is an industry. There are thousands and millions of people who are dependent on that. There's not just a film star that you want to boycott. There are so many people, from light boy to assistant to camera person to assistant camera person to graphic artists to colorists to so many other people, or to set designer, or the people or the basic laborers who make sets. So there is a whole industry working behind the film industry. So in order to attract more foreign companies and promote domestic film shooting, and this was a kind of a discussion happening in FICCI meeting, where Minister for Commerce and Industry and Railways, Mr. Piyush Goyal, said, I'll be talking to states, and this is recently in July, I'll be talking to the states and within the government to ensure attracting more filmmaking in India so that they don't go to any other international place, which will also improve our tourism sector. We all have to work together. So this has been a kind of a constant thing that for any song and dance, Bollywood has to go, you have to see a kind of a scenic place in a foreign locale. Switzerland has been the most used and often used. And of course, the way Yash Chopra used Switzerland in his films right from 1980s, that any Indian or every Indian, especially the middle class, the aspiration was that one day they would visit Switzerland because it's the most beautiful place. Earlier, it used to be Kashmir and Shimla and all those hill stations which used to be featured in 1960s films. But 1980s, Yash Chopra changed that political landscape, of course, because of the kind of issues that we were having in Kashmir. But it really boosted Switzerland's tourism. Okay, and what happens that, if you go to Switzerland now, Hindi, you will see Hindi signs prominently in all the tourist areas. You'll find Indian restaurants everywhere in Switzerland. If you go to Mount Atlas, where Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge was shot, you'll find a cutout of Kajol and Shah Rukh Khan's out there welcoming you. So they really, really know that they have this huge, Indian population wanting to come to Switzerland, and they have really marketed them. And Indians have been the #1 tourists going to Switzerland. So many things that does, and these are all related. The box office is not just about the theater returns, but so many other things as well. So media and entertainment sector is the largest driver of growth for the Indian economy. Skill-based education in this sector will open up newer avenues and create employment opportunities for the youth. And this is what Mr. Amit Khare, Secretary, Higher Education and Ministry of Education, Government of India, he has to say. But also you have to note that 2020 has been very, very problematic worldwide. And I'll just again point out Jonathan Alsberg's point here and what happened in COVID-19. He says, the Global Screen Production Report states that in 2019, the global expenditure on screen production reached a new high of $177 billion, which puts it almost twice the size of the electric car manufacturing industry. There was an increase of $414 billion in gross value added and created 14 million jobs around the world. The COVID-19 shutdown resulted in a loss of $145 billion in economic impact over the first 6 months of 2020 and 10 million global screen sector value chain full-time equivalent jobs. He also mentioned that the various governments have already identified screen production as a key component of economic recovery, and many of them have created measures to encourage production to restart. So COVID-19, of course, has created a whole lot of problems. I'll now move on to my next segment and section rather. Manisha, I'll just ask you to remind me of the time limit because I'm just going on non-stop. So just in case if I've got 5 minutes left, just let me know so that I can wrap it.
Sure, sir. No problem.
So one of the terms that is being used for film industry is something, in fact, I should share this because this is something you should understand and know as well, especially for students. 1 second. All right, it's going to share. So this is about Bollywood or film industry being a creative industry. Okay, so we are, more and more we are calling the film industry or entertainment industry as creative industry. Terry Flew, he is one of the very well-known scholars of Australian scholar. He says that the creative industries have been typified by the ability to undertake wealth creation through the exploitation of intellectual property. Okay, wealth creation through intellectual property. It means, through stories, storytelling, cinema, cinematography, so many of those things, intellectual property that goes on. Okay, so creative industries are about experiences. A tremendous range of economic activity arise from the creation of pleasure and meaning. These experiences, when they take the form of goods and services, provide work for a host of people, and they contribute and support a host of other economic activities and entire industries. So film, again, I'm going to stress again and again, when we talk about box office, it's not about box office return, but it is also about this industry, which is preparing to create something for you, for us consumers to watch it. But within that, there is a big economic cycle or a particular economic industry which is dependent, and they are working throughout. And that's where this particular interdependence between the audience and the filmmakers and this whole industry works together to bring out the best or make money for people as well. So the creative industries are a new growth industries of 21st century as they add value to economy as a whole, offer new business opportunities for young entrepreneurs, creators, designers, and small and medium enterprises, and create new source for growth and employment opportunities. Okay, so if you would see again, COVID-19, what has it done? COVID-19 has created new storytellers on the online media. We are today again on, via Google Meet or, Zoom or something like that. And there are now new modes of storytelling earlier, which was not explored. OTT platforms became big. You see so many big blockbusters now directly releasing on these OTT platforms or Netflix or Amazon, or you just talk about any of those kind of, online platforms, and you all are subscribing to it. In India, it's very cheap, and here it's a bit expensive, but still $10 is nothing. For in $10, if I can access thousands of movies and can watch a movie every day, what's better than that? It's nothing. It's just $10 is you pay for watching one movie here. That's the minimum price in Australia. So putting $10 for Netflix or Amazon, I think it's a great deal. I'm not trying to promote them, but that's my thing. So Bollywood, in terms of creative industry, also has multi-platform links. All industries have multi-platform links. Okay, remember. But Bollywood, the biggest multi-platform link Bollywood has is with the music industry. Nowhere in the world, the music industry and film industry go hand in hand. In fact, the success of a film lots of times is reliant on the success of its music album, and vice versa. So many things in music industry, and of course the rise of TV channel, music channels and all, that has given new life to music industry, Bollywood, then things like TV and digital online OTT platforms that I'm talking about, and also tourism, as I just quoted the minister and why tourism is important. So it's not only, one of the things whenever I talk about tourism, while, Indian films have been able to create these kind of touristic, really beautiful locations for us to visit, Indian films somehow has failed to explore those kind of touristic locations for the foreigners. And because of that, and why they have failed, because Indian films do not penetrate to the audience across the world as strongly as other films. Okay, so we need to create a strategy and also probably work around the kind of storytelling which appeals to a wider audience and not just Indian audience. So of course we are now seeing lots of international productions being made and which appeals to international audience. So we need to be really able to grab that international audience. And mind it, they love Indian cinema and the Indian plot line, song and dance, and the kind of high, over emotional dramas and all those things. Those are love. So do not say that Indian films are escapist, that's why nobody likes it. No, people love it and there are takers of it. It's all about marketing, it's all about reach. So how do you reach and how do you market it? Event industry, again, very much integrated with Bollywood. So many, all the weddings now, it's all Bollywood based, okay? So many things around events or social works. Bollywood also involves in social works, or utilizes its own leverage to create new things out there. So yeah, so coming back, let's talk a bit more about business of filmmaking, okay? And when I say business of filmmaking is about making, for people as, oh, it's a glamorous place, you have to make money or this. But actually, what happens? That only handful of films actually make really good money. Rest, it's a big problem. So the corporatized structure of Bollywood, as opposed to earlier where it used to be running in a kind of a very unmanaged way, of course, it gives it some kind of a better standing, And I don't know if you are aware or not, the Indian film industry got an industry status only in 1998. All right, till 1998, it was functioning as just a kind of a loose form. Okay, there was no bank loans or things like that which was coming in. So only after 1998, when it got industry status, that it could actually get all those loans and other things and lots of government support earlier, which was really missing from Indian cinema. And that's why there was a whole lot of the so-called black money funneling into Indian cinema, or we talk about how, at one point of time, the mafia was controlling Indian cinema, or they were funding a whole lot of films. I'm not saying they were controlling the whole film industry, but at least there was a huge kind of penetration of these kind of illegal money, whatever you can say. So there is no sure path to turn a profit in films, but there are lots of things one has to do. So, and now with the problem that theaters are facing, the footfall for theaters, 2020 is a washout. And I don't think we are going to go back to the normal for next 2 years. India can be an exception probably. I see people have gone back to normal, but in Australia, probably for us to go back to normal, it is going to take a long time, or especially for me to think of going back to theater, which I love. I would like to support it, but no, I'm not going to risk myself at the moment. So I would keep myself away from theater for a long time. And thankfully with the OTT platforms I can have, and OTT platforms, what is this doing now, that you also have video on demand. So now Disney has started like Mulan. It was the first film, which Mulan Part 2, which it was giving you direct access to the film, same as the theater release, but you had to pay $50 to watch that access. So these video on demands are also coming out quite a lot, and which is adding to the money, which, another way of creating of money. So merchandising, another thing, very important, merchandising. I don't know how many Indian films have been able to do that. Very few, but if you go abroad or if you go for tourism, one of the things, especially if you go to US, people end up, going to the Hollywood Walk and all those things and end up buying merchandise like the superheroes or the Oscar awards or things like that. So there's lots of merchandise available. And the biggest films, the biggest moneymaker films in terms of merchandise, which ones are those? Can you name those? It's Frozen. Okay, Frozen is the film. Everywhere in the world, all the girls, little kids, they want things with, Frozen poster, Anna, and whatever the characters are there. Frozen have made billions and billions on merchandising only. So Indian films also need to really up their particular game and create these merchandising opportunities for them. Most of the times we laugh, oh, why should I buy a merchandise on Indian cinema? But now it's getting big. The other day, someone gifted me a kind of a wine, not wine, but vodka shot glasses, and it had Gabbar Singh and all those things, written on it, and I really liked it. And there was these posters with Mona Darling and all those Ajit's what do you call dialogues and all, and those are really interesting. The more we try to create those merchandise, there will be takers, and there has to be a certain pride associated with your film. Till the time you're looking down at it, there will be nothing. You will be still buying Hollywood or talking very intellectually that, oh, I like that film, but we have much more to offer, and we have got a huge, really great film industry to talk about. So business of filmmaking, I want to just put some of the things again. I'm going to share it here, and Manisha, just remind me whenever I'm about to.
Jay sir.
Yeah. So some key phrases here, and there is domestic. So domestic market is the market where the film is being released, the country of origin. So domestic market is India. International is anywhere other than the country, so any foreign countries. Theatrical release is where the films are being released in theater. Home entertainment could be anything from DVD, Blu-rays, any forms, tapes. Okay. Pay TV is either your OTT platforms could be pay TV as well. Okay, sorry, pay TV is cable channels. Sorry, yeah. Free TV is free-to-air channels. Video on demand, or now is the OTT. And pay-per-view, I was just talking to you about that, how Disney started Mulan as pay-per-view kind of a thing. So those are the kind of some things that you need to keep in mind. And in terms of costs, the budget, okay, this is very important. Like we are talking about box office. How do you calculate if a film has made money or not? So the budget, the starting point for working out the final cost of releasing a movie is to look at how much it costs the studio to shoot the film. So this is more in terms of Hollywood, but it can be applicable to anyone. So this is often called the negative cost. Negative earlier because it was made on film, so it was all about the negative cost. Now it is all digital, so it's the digital cost. Okay. So development, about working on the film or creating the final script, it was one of the first things. Then pre-production, building a team and planning the shoot. Production, shooting the movie, and post-production is all about editing, visual effects, sound design, and music. So there is a big chunk involved in that, and that is all about movie production cost, okay? But other costs, which can be much more than the production cost, is your marketing, from trailer to posters to hoardings to billboards, you name it, the marketing, or appearing on TV, okay, paid promotions, this, that, everything. The prints, now for each theater, you have to send your hard drive, okay? So all the hard drives. So if you are releasing in 4,000 theaters, 4,000 hard drives you need to send. Okay, or residual costs that are associated with the film union or people who you have to pay back later on. Financing cost, that is about if you have taken loan, then you have to also pay back the loan or the kind of interest that has been generating. And overhead, people who are involved, or the studio people or the film production company, and the kind of money they get. So that all creates a kind of a business or overheads, and that's what needs to be cut from the final film cost. And that's why we see, oh, this film, it made 100 crores. Suddenly you're going to say, wow, but then you look at the cost of total film, and then with everything, it's like, oh, 200 crores, and they made only 100 crores. Then there's no wow factor after that. It's like, oh, they lost big time. I think the recent film I can think about, Saho, which was really, terribly hit with the way they spent more than 300 crores on the film, and then later on it could not muster even that kind of money. And I think only the Hindi version of the film made some money around 150 crores or so. So films make money on the basis of theatrical release. Lots of films that you see on airplanes, okay, when you're taking a flight and you watch a film on flight, so they actually get money paid, they can always go and get money for that. And hospitality industry, so if they are anyway, using any of the films, home entertainment, video on demand, television, world premieres, merchandising, all these things I've talked about. So now I'm going to quickly wrap up everything in 5 minutes, okay? So the value of film industry in India in financial year 2020 was about 183 billion Indian rupees, okay? 2021 is going to be very different. Probably it's going to be half of what I'm talking about right now, okay? Unless you guys really forget about COVID-19 and start going to the theater without any risk, okay? If that's your call, but I still have a doubt on that. So more than half the following year due to the coronavirus pandemic, the estimates for there will be kind of difference, or there will be kind of problem in terms of the kind of money they make. Office revenue for the Indian film industry in 2020 is valued around 139 billion Indian rupees. Okay, and there is a still recovery by 2022, and I'm hopeful, because film industry, nobody can live without it. Coronavirus, no matter what people will say, oh, we didn't go to theater, but the amount of movies and television series and things people have watched sitting at home during the lockdown or during the crisis has been amazing or phenomenal. Okay, so another thing, sorry, I have to share this again. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so revenue of film industry in India 2019 by source. Okay, so now what you see in this, that domestic theatrical source has been the maximum. Overseas theatrical revenue has been very little. Okay, if you compare it with Hollywood always gets more than 60 to 70% of its revenue from overseas theatrical, releases. Bollywood doesn't. Bollywood needs to really focus on this overseas market. They just can't be saying that, oh, we make good enough money in India, why should we go abroad? No, you need to target that, because Hollywood is targeting your market. Hollywood is coming number 2. They are making the second highest, amount of money after Hindi films. So you need to challenge that. Otherwise, Hollywood at one day, it will overtake the kind of revenue that Hindi films are making, and then you won't have any market to explore. So probably we need to do that. Broadcast rights for theaters, for television. So that's a little bit, around 22.1. And digital OTT rights, very little, but you'll be surprised next year it is going to go higher, and probably it will break the overseas theatrical numbers as well. And in cinema advertising, it's very little, and home video has always been little, very less. So the biggest movie productions of these are asides. Okay, so in India, 2.0 was the highest budget movie in India, with production value of almost 6 billion Indian rupees. Saho, another action thriller produced in 2019, became the second highest big budget film, costing over 3.2 billion rupees. Then you have Zero, Bharat, Padmavat, Tiger Zinda Hai, War, Bahubali, Race. So these are the kind of big budgeted blockbuster movies. But you have to always see which one was a winner, Not that 2.0 was not a big winner. Gods of Hindustan was a big disaster. Okay, Saho.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I am sorry to intervene, but could you wrap up in 5 minutes?
Yes, please. I'm going to do that.
Yes, thank you so much.
So, and as I said, Bollywood and the tourist dollar. This is another kind of a aspect that one needs to talk about. And I talked about it already. That it's not about tourist dollars for the other countries. It is not about Bollywood creating a kind of a fantasy for its Indian people to go and visit America or go to come to Australia. The moment they shoot a film abroad, it's a montage. It's a touristy montage. Okay, it's never realistic. It's a touristy montage. The hero will end up going, no matter he's going to drive a taxi in the foreign country, but he's going to go into the most expensive nightclub or strip club or bar or this and that. And that is the kind of, imagination that is created. And somehow it also boosts that particular ambition for people to visit for different causes. For some, it is the beautiful locations. For some, it's the white women. For some, it's having those kind of adventure tours and all those things. So there are different things which films peddle, but are we trying to bring back the audience to our country, okay, to India here? So those are the kind of things which we need to think about. Okay, OTT platforms, there's huge opportunities, and especially for students now in media and mass communication here. For you, probably is the best time, because as an entrepreneur, you can start at any point of time, even as a student. Create your own YouTube channel, start monetizing it, see what you can, share in terms of your story or your storytelling. So there are so many things that you can do, and the digital market is going to overtake everything. It is going to be the future, and it is the future, in fact. And probably you should start understanding how to operate within the digital marketing. Okay, If you are sharing something on Facebook, that is also storytelling. If you're sharing something on any platform, even a photograph on Instagram, again, it's part of storytelling. So how can you make your storytelling effective? Those are the things that you need to really, really look into and work on. Another thing, this was an interesting kind of question which came from a couple of my students, that how Netflix pays for movies and TV show licensing, and these are subscription based, okay, subscription based platforms. So it has its own subscribers and offers different tiers of pricing, and the fee that is collected, and with 193 million subscribers, you can understand the kind of money they are making. So at the moment, Netflix has 14.7 billion worth of licensed content on its books. Okay, 14.7 billion, amazing. That's in dollars. And content that Netflix produced itself was worth 9.8 billion. Okay, again, huge numbers. So the way OTT platforms are going, it's going really, really big. So at the end of 2019, Netflix had 24.5 billion of content assets on its balance sheet, up from 20.1 billion the year before. Of this licensed content accounted for 14.7 billion. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Okay. All right, some aside. So we have got a whole lot of people who are being paid quite a lot. Akshay Kumar, Amitabh Bachchan, Salman Khan, you name it. You know it. Okay, I don't need to. I need to skip those. And you see that Hollywood movies are making huge money in India. These are India figures. Okay. So in terms of billion rupees, Indian billion rupees, so 3.73 Avengers Endgame, a huge amount of money that is. Avengers Infinity War, again, making huge amount of money. So there's lots of money that is being made. So box office is not about just return, it's about audiences participation, it's about the multi-platform link, it's about so many people involved in this film industry, filmmaking. There's so much to talk about, everything that is associated with, but I think the next guest has much more to speak about this aspect. I'll be more than happy to take questions later on, and I'll hang around. Thank you so much. I might have babbled a little bit here and there, but there were so many things to cover in this time. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. We had a very different perspective on how the numbers run the industry. We were able to look at it apart from glamour. And now I would like to request Ms. Gunjan Verma to welcome our second guest, Dr. Abhishek Singh. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pathvi. Dr. Abhishek Singh, Associate Professor and Chief Coordinator, Media Research, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies. Dr. Singh has brilliant academic career and has been a university topper with more than 15 years of successful university teaching experience in top academic establishments like GGSIP University and Amity University, India, and as senior academician in Ministry of Higher Education, Oman, and Purdue University, Northwest USA, with specializing in visual communication and persuasive media. He has held position as HOD, Media Coordinator, and member of various university academic committees. His area of interests are media research and cinema, culture and society. The research publications, he has published 2 books, 60 plus academic papers, articles in national and international journals, and also chapters in edited books. Now I request sir to please enlighten us with your lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, ma'am. And I would like to first appreciate and thank the Kalindi College, University of Delhi, for inviting me for such a wonderful event. A lot of things so far discussed by Professor Vikrant Kishore, but I would like to focus on the content, on the reachability to the customers, to the consumers, the viewers in the market. The commerce is here, of course. In the media language, I always used to say it's a media economics, the cinema economics, the plus and minus, the profit and loss. It is very important to understand the reachability, the penetration power of the movie, the cinema. I'm not going to discuss what is Bollywood, or it has already been discussed by Professor Vikrant. So first of all, I would like to tell my students or everybody that what exactly the cinema do, how cinema get performed. I would like to share my slide first. If you talk about the cinema, the preparation of cinema, how cinema can be made. Is my slide visible, everybody? Is my slide is visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you see the cinema, if we consider cinema, how to make cinema can be made, the cinema budget is very important. The overall concept of cinema is based on the budget. The pre-production, where we plan, decide our actors, location, visualize the content, practicality, the production. Everybody know this is a active part where we used to shoot the sequence shots and make the cinema post-production, the visual effect, sound effect, like that. But the most important thing here is the content. The cinema content is very important, because the popularity of cinema, the reachability of cinema, the sale of cinema, the earning of cinema, if cinema is a blockbuster or cinema is a failure, it very much depend on the content, the movie content. If I take the example in this context, there is a movie that Newton released in 2017. First day, the earning of that particular movie, the Newton, was just 40 crore, 40 lakhs, sorry. And the second day, it reaches to 2.5 crores because of the content, because the people knows, the popularity became, it came in a newspaper and a various media platform that the Newton is an Oscar entry. So the content, the story is very strong. So whatever you are making, the content matters. The entire movie trade, the business, very much depend on the content. In a media language, we used to say that if your message is clear, if your content is clear, it is very important to popularize it. It is very easy to familiarize with the people, the society, the consumer, the viewer. They understand. And if they know that if the cinema has a potential, of course, the people will come and see. But how it is possible? Here the business starts. Means if you are talking about the cinema, you made a cinema, but how the people will come to know? Media management is very important. Marketing and promotion is very important in this context. You have a wonderful cinema, but how the people will come to know? The earning, the business is very much depend on media management. In this context, I will come to the commerce part of that very clearly. I will try to explain you how cinema do their business. But first, being a media professional and a professor of a mass communication, it is very important for a student to understand it is not only the cinema making. The marketing is also important. The media management is also important. The promotional management is also important. What are the various platforms? You have a thing, but how the people will come to know that you have a wonderful stuff? That's a beginning of your movie trade. That's a beginning of your commercialization of cinema. How much money do you want to earn? There are so many movies. Like one example I gave, Dhadak, as Janvi Kapoor's movie just now last year came. When the movie start, they are shooting. That particular day, a full paper, full page content, the marketing starts from that very day. That yes, that movie has started their function. That movie has started their shooting. These are the characters. This is the probable stories. People, the reachability. from the producer to the public. The marketing is a very important part. That is and then only we can expect that the people will come and watch your cinema. So the cinema is not just a one term. Cinema is a complete media management. In a perspective of media management, and of course the commerce is there, money is everywhere. We are doing everything to earn money, business. So it is very important here to understand these are the basic concept behind the cost of cinema. In a very colloquial language, you used to say the budget. What is the budget of that particular cinema? But budget must include a promotion and advertising expenses also, non-theoretical rights also, the revenues that already Professor Vikrant told, satellite rights are there, music rights are there, overseas rights are there. The number of tickets here is basically the box office works. How much ticket it sold. Then we have to focus on the gross collection. Total money collected from the ticket sales. The net selections. Gross collection minus entertainment tax. I will come in a very detailed way to discuss all these terminologies. But in a very concrete way, we need to understand the commerce behind the cinema. How cinema do the business. Here is a chart that from producer. Producer just made a movie, but what about the accessibility to the viewers? How the movie is available to the viewers in a market? That distributors play a very important role. There is a close relation between the producer and a distributor. Distributor to sub-distributor, then exhibitors, the theater. The producer just work to make the movies, just to make the movies and be available for the people. But how it will reach to the public? That distributors plays a very important role here. And there is an agreement we will discuss. There are various types of agreement into that. The movie is ready to sell, but who will sell? And who will get the profit? What are the percentage of profit? What is the first week earning, second week earning, third week earning, and so on? What is the number of screens? What is multiplex? What is single screen? We must have to understand the concept, the chemistry of these all terminologies. Then we will understand the commerce behind the cinema. The Bollywood is just a one word, a combination of Hollywood and a Bombay. Now it is Mumbai. It's a Bollywood. But in the Bollywood or Indian cinema, it's a very complex process to make the cinema, to distribute the cinema, to have a business. What is this? What actually we are trying to say? So first level, there is a relation, there is an agreement between a producer and a distributor. I'm changing the track. There is an example. I was in US. I was in a Purdue University, Northwest Indianapolis, and in the theater, there is a big question. In that theater, the Sunday morning used to be very important, because Sunday morning people used to estimate the business. Do you know why every movie is released on Friday? In India, I'm talking about in India. In various countries has their own releasing dates also. I was in Oman, in Gulf, in a Ministry of Higher Education. In Oman, the movie comes generally one day before, on a Thursday evening. Thursday, we used to see the first show there, because the weekend is Friday and Saturday. In India, the weekend is Saturday and Sunday. So, Friday the cinema got released, and the Friday total plus the Saturday total and the Sunday estimate, which is more or less same as the actual figure. But people used to identify the business in these 2 days. So in US generally there are two type of estimates are there. There are two type of database people the distributor used to make. That is in the Sunday morning it's the estimated report, and Monday morning it's the actual report about how much the ticket got sold. So this is the box office working in a very concrete way, I can say. I will come to the proper calculation also in that terms. But basically, from the producer to distributors to the exhibitor, the theater, the calculation works in that way. So going forward in this, if you see the distribution share, as I told you before, that the producer just made a movie and sold it to the distributor. For example, 50 crores. In a weak way, first, there is a business of 10 crores, for example. There is a division. Distributor and the producer. Distributor once sell the entire cinema, their work is done. If the budget is 20 lakhs and he sell to the distributor in 40 lakhs, 20 crores is a net profit for the producer. But the distributor has purchased that particular movie in a 40 lakhs. So now the game starts between the producer and the theater. First week, what is the business? 50-50 would be the ratio. Second week, for the multiplex I'm talking about, 42, 58. Now gradually the situation is increasing. The percentage is increasing for the theater, the exhibitor, and the producer are getting down. Single screen the same way, 70-90%, 70-90% like that. It depends, entirely depends on the agreement. So if we are talking about profit and loss, the entire calculation from the producer to the box office, but in a very general language, we can say that the market, the cinema success, the blockbuster, or cinema is a big failure, or cinema is a disaster, or cinema is a flop, depends on the number of tickets sold. But also there is a revenue generation through various rights, the sales of various rights. As Vikrant already told you that there is a rights related to satellite rights, overseas rights. There is a digital rights, music rights. Even the cinema, the producer or distributor used to sell their ringtone, the dialogues. In a Dangal movie, Dangal is an epic. Dangal cinema is an epic in the history of Indian cinema. 2,000 crores. And in China itself, I will come to the case study with the Dangal. But overall, if you see the collection, the profit and loss, the entire calculation is very complex, but we need to understand it. So these are the rights. I already told you that box office plus your different rights is an overall Indian film trade. These are the examples of various movies. Now I would like to go to the calculation part, how the budget and how the net income is being discussed. How we can say the cinema has earned that much money. It doesn't mean, generally people used to say the Salman Khan's movie, the Amir Khan's movie, the Shah Rukh Khan movie, 100 crores. Business is 100 crore. Business is 200 crore. Business is 300 crore. Business is 400 crore. What actually it means? Do you mean This is the earning, actual earning? No. This is not the actual earning. If I say that Bahubali 2, the earning is 511 crores. Dangal, 387 crores. Bajrangi Bhaijaan, 320 crores. PK, 340 crores. The budget was very low. If you take the example of Dangal only, the movie budget is only 70 crore, but the earning is 387 crore. How it came 387 crore? Bajrangi Bhaijaan, 90 crore is the only budget. The business is 320 crores. Bahubali, another great example into that. The movie just 250 crores, but the business is 511 crore. And if you go to the overall, the worldwide business, it crossed around 1700 crores. How it become like that? So this is the actual calculation. What I'm trying to tell you here. We have a limitation of time, but very fast, I would like to tell you how the commerce work into that. For example, if I take one example of a movie, any movie, like English medium, if you take that example, or any movie, fictitious. If the budget of the movie is 20 crores and the producer sells that movie in 40 crores, the producer work is done here. Finish. Producer made 20 crores profit because the budget was 20 crores. He sold in a 40 crores. The role of a producer is over. Now the distributor come into existence. The role of a distributor is very big. You have heard of so many names like Dharma Production is there, Heroes Now is there, Yash Raj Films are there. These are the distributors, surely. Sometimes they also make a movie. A producer is also work as a distributor like a Dangal. Amir Khan was the producer, but he also work as a distributor here. So we will discuss that part also. But before that, the producer just purchased that particular movie in a 40 crores and put 10 crore as a marketing. For a marketing, they put just 10 crores. So total expense is what? 50 crores. How they will earn more than 50 crores to have a profit? This is the entire balance sheet. Now out of 50 crores, the distributor sold the satellite rights, digital rights, overseas rights, music rights in a 15 crores. So first they already earned 15 crores. The expense is 50 crore, they already earned 15 crores. And if I take example that the gross income from ticket selling on a single screen, it will be easy to understand you people that single screen, because the percentage is very fixed in terms of single screens. If the cinema made 100 crores by selling ticket, 100 crore cannot be the overall business. 100 crore, the GST is also here, government tax. You have to give 28% GST crore, the entertainment tax in a very simple language you can say. So what is the 28% of 100 crores? If I used to say this, because the actual price of the selling, we need to apply that in that terms. So 22 crores, 100 into 100 upon 128, it is 22 crore. This is the GST. You need to give it to the government. The government is also looking after your earning. So 100 minus 22 crore is a 78 crore. That is your net collection. But a net collection, you also give rent to the exhibitor, the theater. You have to give some charges. What was the charges? For example, if I say that's a 25 and 75 is a ratio, then the 25% you need to give it to the theater. So after giving the rent to the theater, the exhibitor, the distributor have only 58.5 crores. That 58.5 crores and the 19.5 crores is a theater rent. That is a profit of a theater, because you took theater to show the movie to the public. So the total profit here for the distributor is 58.5 plus 15 crores. That is in the beginning we sold our digital rights to the public, to the companies. Then 15 crores is that, and 58.5 plus 15 crores. It's a 73.5 crores, and 50 crores was the expense. You remember? In the beginning, we talked about the 40 crore plus 10 crore in the marketing and promotion. So 50 crore. So minus 73.5 minus 50 is overall 23.5 crore is a total profit of that particular movie. So this is a success, a big blockbuster. 20 crore was the budget, and out of giving everything, GST and the theater rent and blah blah blah, everything, we have the distributor have a 23.5 crore as a profit. So this is the actual calculation behind the success of a movie. Movie is a blockbuster. If you take the example of a Dangal movie, as Vikrant already talked a lot about the China market and the box office, but just I would like to tell you people that Dangal was an epic. First movie in a history of Indian cinema or a Bollywood earned more than 2200 crores. Not a small thing. 70 crore movie earned that much. For a 4.5 star movie, a biographical sports drama movie. India's Dangal blast 2000 crore rupees, a milestone of world cinema, a big thing. Total number of screens are very important here. In a generally, as per the business standard report, the total number of screen in India is around 10,000. But in a small town, that is not included the small town. So overall, if I say that the calculation is too high in that ways, the multiplexes or the single window, single screen, and the Dangal movies has shown around 43,000 Indian screens, 10,000 overseas, the outside India. That is not included the China screens, that is 9,000. Total budget 70 crores, 3.87 crores in a Hindi cinema, Hindi language. You know, the Dangal was also released in Tamil and Telugu language, that is by name Yuddham. Well accepted by almost every language people. In India, only the Hindi language business was 387 crores. 532 crore, 38 crores, Hindi plus other language. Overseas, 1671 crores in the entire world. And the grand total is around 2200 crores. The China only, in China, 1412 crores was the business. That is one of the best example of box office collections. The first day collection of a Dangal was 29.78 crores. The first week the collection was 197.54. And so on the 17th day, the Dangal has earned 330 crore all-time blockbuster. So what I'm trying to tell you that if you talk about the collections, the collection of a Bollywood cinema, the ratio between the distributor and the theater or sub-distributor and the theaters, producer is just a one part. That is why the entire business is with the distributor. That is why in nowadays, most of the producer, they also want to be a distributor. They used to do the distributor from their own, because they know that if the distributor means distributor is a main earner. If you're working in that way, everybody want to be a distributor, because the main calculation, the main the profit goes to the distributor. One more thing I would like to tell you, there is a constraint of time, but I want to tell you that there is an agreement. There are three types of agreement between the producer and a distributor. First is a MG system, we used to say it, minimum guarantee system. Here the producer and the distributor, they both play a role. The producer used to give the entire movie or sell the movie to the distributor, and distributor along with their office charges, like producers sell their movie in 100 crores, 20% means 120 crores. Over that, whatever will be the earning, it is a profit for the distributor, but distributor need to show the entire balance sheet to the producer also, and they both have a contract that what will be the share of money. Second is a override sales and override purchase system, where the producer just sell the movie, whatever their price, 100 crore, 50 crore, 60 crore, 150 crores, and now the producer have nothing to claim, no relation with the distributor. Distributor will do whatever they want. What will be the profit, what will be the loss, the distributor will do. So the earning, the profit will entirely with the distributor only. The third is a commission based. If the distributor will say, I don't have a money, I cannot buy your movie, but I will help you on a commission basis. I will popularize your movie on a commission basis. And whatever the commission will be fixed, 5%, 10%, 15%, 7%, 8%, whatever. If the movie will be in a loss, nothing to lose from distributor side. The entire risk with the entire risk with the producer only. So it is very important here to understand under what circumstances the entire movie being monitored, used, and promoted by the distributor. So this is the entire commerce behind the cinema business. There are so many examples like Sole, a grand success, like Mughal-e-Azam, only 11 crores was the profit, but that time in 60s, biggest success. In 75, Sole, and still the Sole is very popular. So the distribution is very important, and to understand the chemistry of a distribution, GST is there, net collection is there. Before, prior to GST, there was only entertainment tax. The gross collection equal to net collection plus entertainment tax. So the gross collection will be or the net collection will be the gross collection minus GST nowadays. Presently, GST go to the government, and the net collection go to the industry, the producer. So entire that way, if the movie has a business, first day business, 100 crores, first week business, or second week business, third week business, the entire ratio has been fixed. And this is the entire, we can say, this is the commerce of box office collection. But keep in mind, box office is not only the platform of earning. Box office is only one part of Bollywood collection, of the commerce. Other is the digital rights are there, the digital rights like Netflix, YouTube. One very interesting thing I would like to tell you in the last, I will not take much time now, just 5 minutes. I will conclude my lecture. If you talk about the overseas rights, in China there is no YouTube. And nowadays, the distributor or the producer who also work as a distributor, they sell the overrights of a particular countries differently. So one is the digital rights, second the satellite rights, premier big blockbuster, Sony Max. How this possible? The satellite rights are there, they sell in a particular session, in a particular amount. Digital rights are there, overseas of too many countries. I was in Bollywood. My one very close friend, he's working as he's a director. He told me that 18 pages, there is an agreement of 18 pages, and there are so many rights. You cannot even imagine.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir, sorry to intervene. Could you please wrap up as soon as possible? Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. So this is the entire calculation. The digital rights, the satellite rights, the overseas rights, the tunes, music. So in that way, the entire commerce of Bollywood works. I hope you like the session. So I'm just concluding this. Thank you so much, Kalindi College and the entire team. Thank you.
Thank you for a very informative session, sir. Now it is time for our Q&A session. I would like to request Ms. Ritika to preside over the question and answer session. The questions have been put in the chat box. Over to you, ma'am.
Ritika, you are on a mute mode.
Ritika, please unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Parthvi, and thanks a lot to Professor Singh and Professor Kishore for really enlightening us with great, insightful presentations on the business of Bollywood. And while we do generally talk about the social, political, cultural implications of cinema, it's very rarely that we look at the economic aspects. So thanks once again for doing that for us. And I'm sure students have a lot of questions. There are a few questions that are here in the chat box. We have about 20 minutes, so we'll try to ask as many questions from you as we can. So we'll begin with Ms. Bharti's question, which is to Professor Kishore. And she's asking, what is your opinion on the impact of media film reviews on box office collection of a film? So would you like to respond?
Yeah, so let me just have a look at the question. What was that? Opinion on the impact of media film reviews on box office collection of a film. Well, film reviews do create a kind of a sense of, people to go out and watch films. To some extent, it can be a driver at initial point. Okay, a whole lot of people at least a couple of years back, people used to look at reviews and then make up their mind if they want to watch a movie or not. But in recent times, there's so much of manipulation of reviews, and there are paid reviews, which has come into question. And that is where the problem lies as to how much would you believe in reviews. Also, another good thing or bad thing is social media. People instantly post their reviews. So other than your professional reviewers through media platforms who put their opinion, now there are reviewers, self-made reviewers who could put their reviews as well through YouTube or Facebook or any online thing. So review is important. It is always good to have a review of the film, which does not, in a way, does not open up the whole plot. Okay, you need to talk about film, but only to give you a kind of a cursory glance as to what you can expect, but not letting everyone know what is going to happen in film, and you put the whole storyline. So doing review is also an art. It is also something to lead the audience to watch something, or for them to decide if they don't want to watch. But reviews I always find it helpful to get an idea about as to if the film would be up my alley or not. So that's in short, I would say.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. There are a lot of interesting questions, actually. What, according to you, is the impact of OTT platforms on cinema viewing audiences?
Well, cinema viewing audiences are worldwide and everywhere. Okay, so theater, now the COVID-19 has made everyone, understand that if you have to watch a film, you can watch it sitting at home. Only difference is that cinematic experience or the liminal experience that you get in theater. Of course, it's a big theater, it's a silver screen, it's huge and everything, and I would prefer going to cinema. But in situation like this, where we have to stay at home, then OTT platforms have really taken that kind of space of cinema. Also, you have to note that the access, the way how home theaters are changing. Earlier, TV screens used to be, 14-inch, 20-inch, and from that it moved to 29-inch, and now 50-inch is becoming a norm. Okay, and now we all have huge screens. So the bigger the screens get, the more cinematic experience you start getting. So OTT platforms, of course, it provides an alternate model. It provides a kind of a different experience, and if you set it up right, of course, you can get that cinematic feeling. But for the best experience, you have to go to cinema. They both are not comparable in the way which you want to do, or which one would say, oh, I would only watch cinema and theater. COVID-19, as I said, it has challenged that particular way of thinking. I would have also watched all the superhero films in cinema, because that's where you get the best out of it, because it's made for the big screen. But then there are a whole lot of films, in fact, 90% of the films that can be watched on any screen, because they are more plot driven and not all about being big blockbusters or mounted on a lavish scale. So yeah, it both are complementing each other, and both are a bit different from each other. So it just depends on how you want to take it or not.
Okay. There is another. In fact, I think you can take both the questions together. One is on how film criticism is different from film writing, and what should film review, and what should one keep in mind while writing film criticism. And the other is how the cinema business has changed after the arrival of the multiplex.
Two different questions there. So film criticism is about, unpacking a film and going about the whole film and doing that, maybe that like scholars do. Okay, so as I do film criticism. I analyze films. I rip apart films from inside out, and to look at the various things. It can be textual analysis. It could be analysis of color. It could be analysis of song and dance. It could be analysis of different things. But review is very different, because review is for the audience. Okay, you are just reviewing a film and telling what are the takeaways, or what are the things which makes a film watchable or not. So a review is something where you are just telling that this is what I liked. Again, review is a very opinion-based thing. One review will be different from the other person's review. So you will see a spectrum. If you look at the stars that a film gets reviewed, you will see some people end up giving 0, some people end up giving 5 stars or things like that. So review is very kind of a very personal thing. Even film criticism is personal, but film criticism is going into it in a very scholarly manner. you have to also understand, and you have to read quite a lot. Okay, for film review, an understanding of cinema is more important, and understanding the genre and the structure and style and what can appeal to audience. So you're talking to audience if they are, if the film will appeal to them or not. So that's what review is, whereas film criticism is a different beast altogether. So they both are not kind of together thing. What was the next question?
The changing of business after the arrival of the multiplex.
Oh, changed quite a lot, because single screen theaters, it was all about, in India especially, there was something called the pan-Indian cinema, okay? A cinema that would appeal to all Indians, okay? And that's why you had blockbuster films of Manmohan Desai. So in Manmohan Desai's formulaic Hindi film, you would have, you know, the Hindu hero, the Muslim best friend, the Sikh neighbor, the Christian father, and all those kind of things. So it always represented a kind of a pan-India thing, which would appeal, you know, and then you would have a Tamilian and you know, a family or things like that. So they would always include these kind of characters and story or plot line, especially, you know, right from till 80s rather, I would say. And it was always about appealing a larger audience, which was everywhere. Even non-Hindi speaker would watch Hindi films at that point of time. And in fact, Hindi films, you know, Hindi became a popular language, or it spread all across India. Probably it was because of Hindi films that today so many people can speak Hindi. So that was all about single screen. With multiplexes, what happened? That multiplexes came, and then it gave a kind of a platform for niche cinema. Okay, so initially multiplexes were big for English cinema. So English cinema started getting lots of urban Indian people coming and watching English films, and which were even, you know, released in maybe 40 odd theaters. It was good enough for them to coup their money, whatever they did. But now multiplexes have become a big chain. Now it is changing the structure of Indian film viewing. Almost every city has a multiplex. And with multiplex, what happens? That one film can have 5 to 7 screens at one point of time. So it means you can have much more audience to come in. So multiplexes have now started dominating that kind of film releases. Okay, earlier the single filmmakers would really fight for single screens. Now they are fighting for multiplexes, and that's why I don't know how many of you are aware that there have been lots of showdowns between film production companies and film distributors and film screen owners, film theater owners like PVR or various other multiplexes, where they want to retain exclusivity or things like that. So multiplexes have changed the playing field. Single screen still remains for the Aam Aadmi. Multiplexes is more for that elite or people who are wanting to fork out for the same movie 500 plus, whereas single screen are still 100 rupees or maybe less. I don't know. I haven't gone to a single screen theater maybe for last 15 years in India. So last time I went, even in India, even in multiplex, I haven't been to a multiplex in India for last 5-6 years, maybe that time. But whatever I have heard. So it's a different game, and it's an interesting thing because with multiplexes, there are lots of business opportunities also coming up, and also the single death. There has been talks of the death of single screen as to what is going to single screen, and that's a kind of a thing of film going thing. There's so many things to talk about the difference between multiplex and single screen. You know, I can't cover that because it's coming in my mind that, oh, I'm not covering this. So it will be half-baked to answer it in this way, but I'll leave it here because there's so many questions coming in for both Abhishek and for me as well.
I would like to add here that the people's culture is also changing. The people's nature and the mollification, the mall culture is growing, and that is why this is the most important reason behind the multiplexes, the growth of multiplexes, because it is ultimately a business. Single screen cannot work in the city like Delhi or the metropolitan cities.
Yeah,
The
and
people demand.
I would add that it also has to do with aspirations, upwardly mobile aspirations, and also looking in terms of class divisions. Okay.
Exactly.
And whole culture of single screen of the rear stall and the upper stall and the balcony, that was always the class division. And mall moved away the balcony audience to the multiplexes to keep their so-called elitism. So there's so many things to talk about.
So many things are there. Yeah, of course, of course. That the level of the lifestyle or the standard as it is changing. If you see last 10 years, I'm not going very far. Last 10 years, the entire society, the approach of the society has changed. And in that way, in the same way, the approach towards the cinema has also changed. If you, I always used to talk about the content like OTT. It's a wonderful time, I can say, in the history of cinema. The OTT came, but if you want to see a movie like Simba, if you want to see a movie like Bahubali, you cannot enjoy an OTT. The action based, you need to go the big screen and watch there. That is a charm. But if you want to see a cinema having a quality story, OTT is the best. So business, OTT is definitely in the COVID time, the OTT has a bigger success. But having said that, it is also important to understand the nature of cinema, the 100 crore cinema. Of course, the marketing is very important. If Salman Khan has a success, someone asked a question that related to what is your opinion on the hit clubs like 100 crores and 200 crores. It is all about the marketing. Marketing play a very important role. That's why in the beginning of my lecture, I said it's entirely, this is a media management, how you are managing your approach.
Yeah, but I would also like to add that OTT is now becoming a big money.
Of course.
Yeah, money. So I'll give you an example. So Netflix, when it acquired the rights for the Irishman, the film, Martin Scorsese's film, how much money did they give them? It was $150 million. That was the payout for that film.
Right.
Okay. So OTT platform giving away that kind of film. Or if you look at that blockbuster, not blockbuster, but it was a cheesy action film, Six Underground. Again, a Michael Bay film made for Netflix only. And again, 150 million plus kind of money they were getting. So the money is becoming big. And in the Western countries, again, I'll say, I don't know how much in India, but now every other, like now, I'll tell you that every other house is having a home theater of at least 65-inch and above TV. Okay, and that has changed the game quite a lot of that cinematic viewing. That the bigger the screen, the more people feel that they can still. And I agree that watching it in 70 mm or a big screen is a different high, and I'll always prefer that. But things are changing, and it will change quite a lot.
Really, of course, doctor.
Professor Singh, there are two questions directed at you, I think part of which you've answered in a way. So how one can actually understand which film should fall in the category of a blockbuster or a hit or a flop is the first question. So is it only on the basis of box office collection or something else? And the other is about how do you assess the design of Bollywood business considering the economic strategy of commercially successful Hindi cinema that focuses on the 100 crore club? Whereas there are critically acclaimed Hindi cinema also that doesn't really follow this kind of a revenue model.
Of course, the money is the most important. The commerce is the most important pillar behind the success of cinema. As I gave in my calculation, that if the movie has a budget of 70 crore and the overall earning is 500 crores or above that, of course, this is a success, a big success. But if the movie, like there was a movie of Jagga Jasoos, Ranveer Kapoor movies, the budget and the earning is almost similar. So it's a disaster, I can say. The story doesn't work or the marketing doesn't work. Whatever the reason, if the criticism, if you take the example of Newton, as I said, it was not so popular. We cannot say it is a fail movie. It's a flop movie. It cost only around, I think, 15 crore or 11 crore, but the earning was 81 crores. So the story is also very important. Cinematography is very important to decide the future of that particular movie. And of course, the marketing is very important. So in that way, we decide, but money, of course, money plays a very important role in deciding the flop movie, a disaster movie, or a successful movie. What was the second question, ma'am? Criticism.
The second question was whether a film is a hit or a flop or a. So that was the first one. The other was about just give me the 100 crore club.
Mhm.
That follows a different kind of business model, whereas critically acclaimed Hindi cinema has a different kind of a
Mhm.
business model. These were the two questions.
Yeah, of course, the same in the 100 crores and 200 crores. If the movie belongs to that category, of course, the commerce is there behind this. Like if you take the example of Bahubali, in a Hindi language only, Bahubali earned 511 crore. The overseas, including the different languages, like in a Telugu, in a Tamil, the movie earned more than 1100. But overseas, overall, the movie business around 17 crores. The Dangal, in India only, the movie earned around 6 crores. Overseas, 2200 crores. So the business model is always there. Business model means what? How can you influence people? Not only of this culture, but the Chinese culture also. The overseas, the foreign people having different language, acceptance, belief, values, but the business has only one sense, one model to influence, to create a interest, and that is only possible when you have a strong business model. So it is very important to understand that a box office film have a success, but success must have a proper approach to reach maximum people. Because if you have a something and you are not able to show it off, how the people will come to know?
But
So
that also, Abhishek, I would also like to say that also gives rise to mighty and powerful people blocking people who have very little budget or no budget at all. So
of course,
films which are good, they do not see the day of light. And there is this kind of huge manipulation that goes on in the name of marketing or in the name of accessibility, what the money can get. And many good films, many good filmmakers, their films remain, the baband, what you call in Bollywood, Hindi lingo, that काफी फिल्में को डब्बा बंद कर दिया जाता है. So many films, but because of OTT, many of these films which would never release are now finding new avenues to release themselves, and they are also finding
of course,
big success as well. So marketing and all, again, there is always double-edged sword that, okay, you can be prepared, but what happens when there are these multi-million-dollar corporates and big production companies who are ready to elbow out the small players? So it's not always about, so if I as a filmmaker, I want to make film, but I know that I won't get any takers because nobody is backing me up. Okay, so there is this huge, again, another side of it. Is box office or the big budgeted film or the marketing strategy for anyone and everyone, or only the people who are embedded right there in the best place, in the best corporate, in the best production house, only that they can get that kind of opportunity? And that's where the whole discussion around nepotism also came in, and what I really, I was interested in to talk about that, how nepotism plays a very big factor and certain people getting to show their work or products, and whereas lots of people who are good enough, who have the capabilities, yet they cannot do that because they don't have that big money backing them. Just a kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. I would like to add here one movie of our Sushant Singh Rajput, Dil Bechara. When he died, Dil Bechara was just launched on a OTT platform and 9 crores viewers in this COVID time. So it is very important. The OTT has OTT are the hero of the present era, I must say. But having said that, it is also very important that yes, nepotism and the big business companies and the corporates play a very important role here. This is a business entirely. We are talking about the business. So the story is also important, but marketing is also entire management is also important.
Thank you. One last question I think we can ask, which will be directed towards Professor Kishore, which is about what role does social media play in the film marketing, in the marketing of film, as now it's a really big platform for the word of mouth.
Yeah, social media is playing a big role. The word of mouth, or, as I said, when someone asked about the question on review, social media reviews are becoming, quite big. People are looking at each other's posts. In fact, I post a whole lot of one-liner review of the films that I like or not. In fact, when COVID started, I started doing, in fact, my wife started doing these reviews of Netflix films to watch. So we started getting lots of hits on, what kind of films to watch on Netflix or Amazon or things like that. And people were watching it and then asking us to review, in terms of genre. Some people, there was a request from a person who wanted us to review the war films on Netflix or horror films on Netflix. So there are different kinds of things now social media is enabling. And everybody, as I said earlier, that storytelling is now not limited to only filmmakers. The moment we are doing anything on social media, we also create a kind of a short micro story. And that's one of the projects that I'm working on. Storytelling, micro storytelling for social media. That is one thing which I'm pursuing, and in fact, one of the research that I'm doing. So yes, social media is big. People look at it, and also there is lots of negative things going on because of social media. Is to that reviews are now not limited to the quality of the films. Reviews or the social media posts are also hitting out on the basis of religion, on people's political affiliations, on things that they stand for. And that is what I find it problematic. So again, social media, it needs a huge class to talk about social media and films and transmission of films through social media. These are so loaded questions that I can go on and on about, my own personal experiences and things that I see every day. But yes, and now you see so many of these established journalists and film critics who are using effectively Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms. Twitter has become quite huge in terms of those kind of micro reviews, or lots of people are doing reviews instantly, and now reviews have become, when people are watching movies in theater first day, first show, and they are instantly, after every scene, they are posting their Twitter review, that kind of thing. So it in a way generates interest, but lots of times they also give out the plot of the film, which I think does not work in the favor of films. So lots of things happening around that. Social media is a big giant. How we are going to use that giant is all upon us, and how much are we going to pay attention, or with what we are going to ascribe to it. That's the most important thing. We have moved from looking at the social media with an awe and trying to go through things, whatever is being thrown at us. Now it's time for us to make the difference between good, bad, and ugly. Okay, engage with things which actually has some value, or which gives you some information, and not something which is very loaded on a basis of certain slant and things like that. And lots of these reviewers, paid reviewers, they do these kind of things as well. So we have to be very careful of these paid reviews. In fact, the other day I was on Netflix's a review page, and someone posted this big photo of this movie called Rebecca, and he had 2 lines on there. Oh, this is the really, the most horror film that he had ever watched, and you must watch it. And I ended up watching the movie, and that was not a horror movie. It had just a kind of a suspense in it, and it just misled. So lots of people mislead others. So and I fell for that misleading post, but it was done by someone I knew, and I thought, what the hell, what this person did. So yeah, we have to be careful as to what we are reading and how much we are following things. That's my thing.
Thank you, Professor Kishore. There are still a lot of questions there, but I don't think we have so much time to really take up all the questions. But thanks a lot for your answers, and I will now hand over to Parthvi.
Thank you both the speakers for a wonderful question and answer session, and thank you Ritika ma'am for presiding over the session. Now I would like to request Dr. Rakhi Chauhan to give the word of thanks.
Thank you, Parthivi. Undoubtedly, on a very different subject, interest in deliberations. Good afternoon to all. As all good things come to an end, so is this webinar. On behalf of Kalindi College, Department of Journalism and Department of Commerce, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks. It was great hearing you both, our eminent speakers, Dr. Vikrant Kishore and Dr. Abhishek Singh. It was very interesting, really very interesting subject. Both the sessions were truly enriching. Thank you for your valuable time and thoughts. We look forward to many more opportunities like this to connect you with on an intellectual level. We are thankful to our respected principal ma'am for her encouragement, motivation, and support. My heartfelt thanks to the organizing and technical committee of both the departments for their support and coordination. Special words of thanks for my ever enthusiastic students for their great participation. With these warm words, we have to end today's webinar. Thank you all. Thank you to our eminent speakers. Thanks to all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the students for listening to us patiently. I wish I could answer all your questions, but maybe sometime later. But do connect online these days, online world. We always can meet and talk. Thank you. Thanks, Manisha.
Thank you for such a wonderful session. I would like to request all of you to switch on your cameras for a group photograph at the end. Students, all of you are also requested to switch on your camera so that we can take a photograph.
Mamta, Gaurav, Ezra sir, Ritika, you all are requested to switch on your cameras, please.
The rest of the team as well, please switch on your cameras simultaneously.
Ritika. Ezra sir.
Hi, ma'am. Sorry, unfortunately, my camera isn't working, so you'll have to do with it, please. Manisha
It's absolutely fine.
Okay, that's okay.
So sorry about it.
Parthivi, Ritika is also coming within a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
It's done, Parthivi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Gunjan, Poonam ma'am, everybody is there?
Yeah, we are here. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you to all from Department of Journalism.
Thank you to everyone for a wonderful session. Both the speakers were very good
Yes,
speakers.
yes. And
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Manisha, Gunjan,
Thank you, ma'am.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parthavi and the
Thank you.
entire team.
Is it done, Parthivi?
Yes, ma'am. It's taken.
Okay, okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, sir. Thank you, Vikrant sir, Abhishek sir. Thank you, Poonam ma'am, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikrant sir. Thank you, Abhishek sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the invitation and everything. Thank you, Gunjan.